What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner. Today I have a little decorating video for you. So the Inside Out Emotions HQ is a pretty big building. It's pretty bulky. It does kind of look like an AirPod has been dropped into the valley, and I've seen quite a few people say that they aren't entirely sure how to decorate with it or where to place it. So today I thought I would do a video showing you how I've decorated with it, where I've placed it, and all the pieces I've used to make it actually feel like it fits and belongs in Disney Dreamlight Valley. So we're going over to Eternity Isle, I'm in the Overlook, and we're doing a combination build of an Atlantean sort of vibe mixed with the futuristic elements from WALL-E. We're going to use Eve's ship, and of course the Emotions HQ to tie it all together. I really love when something has that kind of ancient but also futuristic vibe to it. There's something about meshing those two worlds together which I really vibe with. I think it turned out pretty well. You can see here a little preview of it in the background, but I'm going to clear this out. We're going to start from scratch, and I'm going to show you step by step how I've put together this little build. So let's just get straight into it. Alright, so as always, I have a mood board placed down of items that I'm pretty sure I want to use. It doesn't mean that we're going to use every single one, but I feel like going through the furniture list and putting some items down that work well together is always a great starting point. I always recommend doing that for decorating. And when I first saw this Emotions HQ building, I thought it pretty closely matches Eve's ship. It's not an entire match, you know, there is a slight difference in color and things, but the vibe of it is the same. It's very futuristic, it's white, which is perfect, and we do have some of the kind of like futuristic WALL-E items as well that we're going to put into this build. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to move this Emotions HQ building into the spot that I want it, which is actually right in the center of this area that kind of sticks out up here in the Overlook. I really like this area. It's nice and square. You can see here that I do have a little WALL-E build starting to come together now that we can place WALL-E's farm over here. But for today, we're just going to be decorating up to this section. So what else I'm going to do actually is I'm going to separate that off right now, just with some hedging, so I know exactly where my end point is. I'm going to pop in just a couple of pieces just in here, and then maybe just one or two up there just for now, just so I know that that is my line. And you can see here that I did have a path already placed down, so I do want to connect kind of like the entrance to the Emotions HQ and then out here. But the other big item that I want to use in this space is Eve's ship, so I am going to grab that as well, and we're going to place that sort of right in this corner, maybe around there. I like the angle of it, just makes it feel a little bit more interesting, gives it a little bit more dimension to the space. And then this section here that we have is going to be some sort of, I don't know if shrine is the right word. I have this little statue from Eternity Isle. The name escapes me, but I'm going to use this. We're going to use these holographic pedestals that we spoke to Jafar from, and we're going to create just a little shrine section here. Whether that matches Inside Out or not is not my problem, but that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to make sure that is just about centered. And the other thing that I thought could look cool for absolutely no reason is if I placed this sort of, I always call this kind of like Stonehenge. I know it's not Stonehenge, but this Stonehenge-esque obelisk structure around the HQ building. And then I thought I could pop that right in the center of that circle, literally for no other reason other than I think that it looks pretty cool. You can still walk through these gaps, which is perfect, so you can still get there. So that will be kept in mind for this mining node and having access to that one and also this one over here. So you can see that I've already now got that in place. Those are pretty much the two big elements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very rudimentary path, and I think I'm going to use maybe the Ancient's path with the border, perhaps. Or I might even use the stone slab with the border. So we are going to finesse this path a little bit, but I just want to get the general gist of it down. So I was thinking something that comes up like that, diagonally this way, then diagonally back, and then straight down to the headquarters. Now I am having a bit of an issue with paths at the moment. For some reason, whenever I go to change a path, so let's say I wanted to change this and replace them all to this one, it's like I don't really know how it's doing it. I can't work out where it's cutting it off, but it's not changing the entire path, and I'm having the same issue when I delete it. So if I just give you an example and I remove this, it only deletes that diagonal section. I think it's something to do with the straight path and the diagonal path, but I cannot be 100% sure, so it is what it is. We will persevere and manage, but I'm just gonna align that a little better, unless I make this come out one. No, that feels too much. And I'll just align those stones to make sure that the building is right in the middle, although that does look pretty off center, so maybe we do bring that across and we go one more diagonal and then up there. That works for me for now. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to bring this down a little bit this way and then across to meet up with that other path that I already have. I don't want this path to be like absolutely perfect in terms of the way the lines line up. I will say that diagonal paths do still feel very clunky, but I do want it to feel a little bit more random. So we're going to go in later and we're going to kind of like chop up, I guess, in a way, this path to make it feel less uniform and less blocky. But for now, that structure works for me. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this. I can't remember if this is like food or if it's just a decor item, but I'm going to place these down as kind of like a wall on either side of this fairy circle, which is not the fairy circle because that one is the mushrooms. And you can see here that I need to bring them back just by one, just to make sure they all fit in. That's fine. We can do just that. And if I come out of furniture mode and into my character mode, you will be able to see, to get to that mining node, you can still run through the center of those rocks and still access that mining node. I do like leaving a little space like this behind buildings sometimes, because if we place trees down in this section, which we are going to do, they often drop sticks and all sorts of stuff like that. And if you want to stop sticks spawning, you can just pick them up and move them somewhere, because only a certain amount of sticks will spawn in a space. So you can kind of create just a little bit of a stick graveyard, I suppose, if you will. But for now, I actually think that looks really good. I love the backdrop. Love that we've got the archway here. We've got Eve's house creeping in. But then we've also got that really nice environmental design that kind of Gameloft didn't capitalize on all that much. We've got the big Atlantean statues. We've got all the sort of like Atlantean ruins and the bridge over here. Gameloft really did a lovely job with this biome. So it's a shame that we didn't get these as kind of like decor pieces, but we push on, we continue. I love that these rocks match the same color as all of the others in this space. So the next thing I'm going to do is start building out this little, like I said, this little shrine area here, which may or may not be a shrine, but I'm going to go ahead and place this guy like right in the middle. And I'm going to grab some of the supporting elements for this area. So I can't remember what this item specifically is called. It's one of the new items. It's one of the new inside out items. If I remember correctly, it's something to do with the memories, but again, its name escapes me. So I'm going to place that sort of in the middle. If we look at this as a rectangle, I'm going to place that sort of in the middle, get that as close as I can. And then we'll place these little holographic stations, maybe just off out to each side. Something kind of like that feels good. Maybe bring this one in one again. And then to actually build up a little bit more of a wall behind this, I'm going to bring in some of the broken castle walls. Now, these aren't a perfect match for this area, but that's okay. I don't mind that. I did try earlier placing down some of these walls, but we only have 2 of them, so they're not ideal, and I kind of like the way that these ones are broken. So I'm gonna pop in some of these castle walls and just leave enough room, maybe even connect those. Just leave enough room to make it look as though there was something here, but still access that mining node. I think I could even come to about there and still have access to it on a diagonal approach. But it just adds another little texture. The color's not quite a perfect match, but I'm okay with that for now. So next up, I'm going to grab a path. And I'm thinking maybe the sinister path could look pretty cool for this little space. So I'm just going to draw a line there. But I may get rid of this first part and have it as like a step entrance, just like that. And then we could maybe make that diagonal. This is another decor video of me asking Gameloft for a fill tool for the path. I would love to be able to draw an outline and then just fill in the blanks. That would be an absolute dream. So I'm going to change all the side shapes then so they go slightly diagonal, which I think looks pretty cool. I do wish that the base of these didn't only lift the biome base, but it lifted the path base, but that is okay as well. And now looking at that, I feel like this could come a little bit more forward. So I'm going to bring that forward there, and then I'm going to bring in that one just over slightly so we can align it to the center of that path. That feels much better. But I also want to drop in these posts, because these are the ones with the blue orb on them, and I always think that they look really cool. What I was thinking was having them kind of like go backwards in a triangle, so I'm actually going to need to move those out of the way. I'm going to bring this to about there, and then if we go back diagonally, we can create kind of like a step back effect. Just like that. And I fear that that will need to go out one. And then, yeah, we've got that kind of like central view of the statue with those lights going back. And then these can be placed just about there and there. Which I think looks pretty cool. And then we're going to have some trees in the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these fairy tale trees, because I think these are always really cool and I love using these. So I'm going to place one there. I'm going to place one there. I will have to just double check I can still access that mining node. We may need to move it just one step in a different direction, but let's take a quick look and make sure that we can still get to that. We can't. That's fine. It's always good to test, so I can always bring all of this over just slightly, because we don't need it on the right hand side, but we will need it on that left hand side. And there you go, you can access it again. So simply fixed, and it still looks just as good. So I'm going to move these sticks. As I said, this is a nice little spot to create a stick graveyard. And then I'm also going to grab some of these small trees. So these definitely match the biome, because they've even got the ruins of the rocks underneath, and I'm just going to place those on either side. And if I can, which I don't think that I can, I may even sneak one in just on the other side of those pillars if possible. Just like that. Already coming together and looking really good. I've got these craftable, I think they're stepping stones or something along those lines. I believe they're done at the time bending table. So I'm just going to place those in a little triangle shape, because we've got got a lot of like angles going on here. So if you can see, everything's kind of matching this entrance step. So we've got the triangle here, we've got a triangle here, and then we've got a triangle here. I don't know, I just think it's very, very pleasing to the eye. So I am definitely on board with that. And then maybe we could even place these fountain tiles underneath. Like, duplicate it instead. We could place these fountain tiles underneath and they could just kind of like be coming out of those pedestals. Does it make sense? No. Does it look cool? Yes. I like it. So I'm also going to bring in some stone benches into this section. I was thinking again of kind of having those match with the angles that we've been playing with, but the only thing is we may need to delete, and I'm not sure how this is going to look. So we may need to delete those and then delete. Yeah, diagonal pathing still a little bit clunky, but if we can change all the sides to diagonal, there we go. That looks pretty good. And then what if I bring, I was going to say, what if I bring that out to there, but I don't think that's possible. So I'm going to undo that. And then maybe if I change this side shape, or if I bring that up, no. Okay, that's fine. Sometimes the game tells you what it will take, and it's obviously not taking that very well, but I still think that looks pretty good. It all lines up. It all fits with the vibe that I was going for. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in some diagonal fencing now, because I haven't really used much of that since it's been launched. And I just wanted to kind of maybe put it, well, if I do one there, and then I do a diagonal version there. The only frustrating thing about the diagonal fencing, which isn't a deal breaker, is that it doesn't connect at all to the straight fencing. So I could do the same on this side, just bring that out to there, and then we make it diagonal going all the way down. And then at least they match on both sides, which is what we're after. I do really love this kind of bathtub with the flowers on it. I mean, does it totally make sense for this build? No. But does anything have to make sense? Because we're in Dreamlight Valley. Also no. I just think it adds some nice foliage and some nice greenery. So we're going to go with that. Just kind of like flanking either side. I wish I could get a smidgen closer, but I'm looking at it and there's no way for me to do that. But I do think that having maybe some of these pillars, if we can sneak them in at all, we can't because of that fencing. Now that's okay. Let's revisit. Let me drop these in because I kind of want those either side of that entry step that we have right now. We look at it from above, we get a better sense of where it fits. So something along those lines. And then could bring that up. Although it does seem to break. Right, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. We're just going to double check what's going on. Let me bring that fence post back out. If we pop it here, we can get to about there. And then I don't think that will want to come across. It will just give us one post. So what we can do is we can just bring that out to there instead. So if we just bring that out by one, and then I bring this fence up. There, that matches on both sides. Feels good. And then if I did want to bring it out, we'll just give us those little one bits again, which are not great, but that doesn't really matter. I'm happy with how that is looking. We can always fill that in with foliage if needs be as well. But for now, I think this this little section will come in with foliage in just a little bit, but for now, this little section I'm happy with, so we can move on. Eve's ship is going to be a pretty relatively easy section to decorate as well. It's mostly going to be some foliage, so I'm actually going to bring her ship over just a couple of tiles this way. And then because I always do like to have something accessible in terms of, well, gameplay, I suppose I'm going to place a time bending table just maybe around by there, just for now. So I've always got that to access. And then I do really love these big clover leaves. Now, I know that these don't really fit this aesthetic, but I just really love how these look. These are from A Bug's Life, the premium shop bundle that we got recently, but I don't know, I just feel like they kind of work with the whimsy of the area. They create a nice little bit of canopy above a build, which is always good. So I'm just going to pop one of those in. I'm going to bring one of the slightly bigger Atlantean trees in if we can fit it. We may need to move Eve's ship a little bit, but I just wanted this for some impact over in this section. You can rotate things a couple of times to see if the footprint gets a little bit smaller. Occasionally it will, occasionally it won't. So you can see that I can fit that in right there. So I'm not going to mess with that anymore. I'm going to leave that. And then I'm just going to adjust this one ever so slightly. And I'm going to pop it. I'm going to pop it there. And then I'm going to bring in just one of the smaller trees with the ruins on the bottom right at the entrance and have that just kind of like spill over the path. What I thought would be cool is if maybe we do a little square there and a little square there. And we change it to diagonal. And then I was wondering if I could get that flat against... Oh, you can. Okay. I mean, these are tiny, tiny tweaks. You don't necessarily have to follow these, but I like the way it kind of like draws you in just with that angle, and I can have the tree just spilling over the little bit of that path just there. I like that. I like how that looks. I'm actually going to move that across. I'm going to move that across ever so slightly, just while I'm looking at it, just so it's not tucked around behind the pillar and you get a nice look at it as you walk through those ancient gates. So I think that looks and feels pretty good right now. We've still got a little bit of space to move that around. And on this side, I'm going to bring in... I'm actually going to bring in a different color. So I think this blue does match. It's not perfect, but I think if we keep the blue hues, because we've got like a brighter blue here, we've got a brighter blue in this umbrella that we're going to bring in, and we've got the same blue in these little plants, which are actually from Eternity Isle anyway. I think bringing in a blue color can actually just tie it all together a little bit more. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to place some other bits of foliage just in this section. Maybe one there, one here perhaps. Maybe we can bring in some of these columns or these ancient ruins just to make it feel kind of lived in with the aesthetic that we're going for. Something just like that. And then maybe we could even bring in one of these as well, since we've got one more to use. I can place that somewhere where it's happy. If I move this a little bit closer, should be able to get that in just there. That's cute. I like that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this path out a smidge. Actually, no. I'm not going to bring that path out a smidge. I'm going to leave that. Actually, no. I am. Why? Because I want to. I'm going to move these back. Because what I want is a little... What I really, really want is a little bench area just by here. Because we do have these nice rusted red benches from kind of like the Wall-E area of the furniture menu, so I think that they go really nicely. We will make that blend in a little bit more in a second. And then I'm also thinking of bringing in Zero's house. Now, this is not a perfect match by any means. However, I did want to drop in a house in here just for the sake of having companions. So I would really like the little ancient robot companion, and I would also like R2-D2 kind of like hovering around this area, but I also don't want to make it look like a grave. So I'm going to turn it around just so it looks like a little structure, maybe a little folly, one of those ones that you would see in the UK in those stately homes and that sort of thing. And I'm going to bring that in and I'm just going to pop it there. But I think it's a good time now to start bringing in some of the smaller flora and fauna that we have from Eternity Isle, because that's what really just fills out a space and makes it feel much more put together and much more alive. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. You can use whatever planting that you like. I just personally use the ones that fit the biome. I always think that's the safest approach when trying to make something look cohesive. And I don't really have any rhyme or reason to how I use those elements. I just kind of bring them in. I rotate them a couple of times so they don't look super uniform, and then I just drop them down. So that's the approach that I take, but you can take whatever approach feels good. And I'm going to bring in... Actually, we have enough of those. I'm going to place another one of those just back there. One of these here. Maybe right by the seat. And it just covers up... It just covers up that house, so it doesn't totally look like a grave site, which is what I'm after. So it just adds a little bit of foliage, a little bit of interest to the space, and it ties it all together. Pop one in just there, just like that. See, that already looks 10 times better. And I wonder if we could fit one in. We can. You will sometimes throw the camera around by hitting large buildings. I also get it on this one over here, so if I'm designing this way and I come down, you can see that it bugs out and it throws everything off, but it doesn't take a second just to adjust your camera to make it fit again. Just while I'm looking at it, I think what I would really like is to try and fit one of these in, maybe there, and maybe there, just so it has that like nice bright green, just like that. That looks great. I'm happy with that. And I am also happy just if we add just one or two more just off the sight line down there, just in the background. I am also happy with how Eve's area looks. Perfect. So it turns out that I'm still having that bug where you come out of save mode and it deletes everything you've done. So I'm going to go back in while it's a little bit foggy, and I'm going to put everything back in place. So I will be right back with you. Right, that is all fixed up, and a good note to myself to save more often, and a note for you as well. If you are running into a bug where it does delete your progress, just try and remember to save. That would be helpful. So I'm just going to go in now that I've fixed that, and I'm going to just start fleshing out the rest of this area. There's actually not going to be anything particularly like point of interest-y round about here. I'm just going to use some of the bigger foliage to flesh out this space and to just kind of like make it all feel a bit more cohesive and put together. I do like the gap in the trees that kind of gives us a view of the Emotions headquarters with these big Atlantean or ancient trees. So we're going to drop those in. I'm just going to finish off this fenced section with the hedge just right here. I believe that it should just be a couple of pieces. Just like that. And actually, for the sake of keeping it neat and tidy, let's just bring it all the way back. And we might even be able to sneak one on the front. We can. So there, that gap looks perfect with the path outwards. It blocks off the little farming section, which we'll end up with over here for Wally. And I kept Wally over here with Eve because I still wanted them to be pretty close together. So I thought that was a nice touch. Let's make sure that saves. And then we can come back in. The path is still not looking 100% complete, but we are going to tweak that slightly. I do think that I want to make this bit a little bit wider. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, even though it deletes half of it, as is the case at the moment with the diagonal path thing. And I'm just going to, just for the sake of making it feel a little bit more lived in, I'm just going to bring in some of these grates from, I think it's the Pirates of the Caribbean set that we got. I'm just going to bring those in, make it feel a little bit more like a functioning area. I also have these, I can't remember exactly what they're called, but they are also from the same set as this clover plant here. I just think with them being white, they kind of just add a nice little bit of whimsy again to the space. So I'm just going to dot those. I'm just going to dot those around sort of by the Emotions HQ, because they actually kind of look pretty similar as well. I don't know if maybe we could swap out one of these plants for one over here. You can see that I've already got some sticks starting to drop again. We can fit it in. There we go. That was kind of cute. I like it. And I think they light up at night, so they're a nice little touch. I'm just going to pop that one there for now. On the entrance or the run down to the Emotions HQ, I was thinking of also possibly, actually that looks slightly off center. I'm going to move that across one. That right? No, it was fine how it was. I'm going to leave that as it was. I'm going to bring in maybe some of the hedging just to create like a more formal and more structured entrance. So I'm going to drop one of those in there, and I'm going to drop one in exactly the same on the other side if I can. So we might have to move that for now. Just like that. I don't know, just to give it a little bit more of a formal looking entrance. And then I'm just going to bring in some of this fencing that we've used just to tie it all together. This ancient fence, we can drop that in just like that. Now, I know that these two rocks should technically not be there. I can't edit this item. It would look better if it was just a semicircle, but it is what it is. Just either pretend like they're not there, or just we can acknowledge that we can walk through them. That's that works for me. I like how that's feeling. We can pop this big tree here. I was thinking maybe extending this, if we can, in some way, just like that, because I was possibly thinking, oh, I don't know if that's exactly the same. I have absolutely no idea. I was thinking of also bringing a bench in just over on this bit as well, just underneath the tree. Feels kind of cute. That works for me. Move that tree over a bit. I know that we've gotten some of those structures in, those pillars, but we have another few to play with. So I was thinking of maybe dropping this right on the edge, just over here. And then we can kind of adjust that pathing if needs be. So I think we can make it diagonal in a way that's kind of also fitting. That works for now. We'll move that over just a little bit. Wonder if we could make that diagonal. What happens if we change? Nothing. Okay, fine. We'll go with that, and we'll place it round about there. So it looks like you have to walk around the outside of it, and then we can just fill in any gaps with foliage. And then I also do have this gigantic one here, which I thought could just be a nice little, I don't know, just a nice little structure that takes up some of the space on this corner. Maybe just on the edge like that. So it's as if they've made the path to go around it rather than sort of like demolishing that to get it out of the way. But I think maybe we bring this back a little bit, which means I can bring this one over there. And then we could to say we could do something like that. We could just change that side. You know, just to make it feel a little bit more higgledy-piggledy, if you will. I like how that's looking. Just move that there. Definitely starting to come together. I also have some of these gates. Now, these are kind of a finishing touch, but I actually absolutely love using these gates to create the illusion of something being open. So if I put one of those here and I duplicate it and I put it this side, only slightly open, I don't know, I just love that effect of it being like, I know they wouldn't fit together if they were closed, but I think it looks pretty cool, like a nice opening, welcoming space. So I'm going to come out and save that, and hopefully it's all saved. Because I didn't take my own advice, and it did. So you can see that it looks pretty cool, and it just looks like kind of an open door. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this side. I'm going to put that one maybe there. And then I think I just have a post. I do have a single post. Now, again, I know that this wouldn't fit if it were to close. I suppose we could maybe... I was just thinking. Actually, if I leave that where that is, and we add an extra one here, I guess I could just have the path come underneath there. And if I get rid of that, but I change that side shape, and I change that side shape, drop that in, maybe that one there. That feels a little bit more complete. I like how that looks. And then we could even get rid of that bit. Try changing those side shapes and seeing how they feel. It doesn't always work, but I think that looks quite cute. We can fill that in with some foliage there too. Excellent. I do also have some of these broken wall and corner pieces, so I'm just gonna go in and kind of like drop these around. I don't have too many of these available to use, but they match with the aesthetic. I've got another corner one over here, which maybe we could find a home for by Eve's section. Maybe just like that. That feels pretty cool. And I wonder if we maybe even just drop it in that gap there. And then you can always just take a look around and see if there's any little spaces that you want to fill in with those nice little filler items. I'm going to try and find a home for this again, probably back here. So it's got a nice diagonal to it and they're not perfectly aligned. So you've got kind of a triangle of them over there. Let me save. Perfect. I have Stitch running around in his little Halloween outfit. And then I've also got just these nice little like Wall-E touches. So this is one of the steward bots. So I'm going to pop that in just about there. So it's on duty. So you can kind of see it as soon as you walk into the space. And then I've also got a parasol. Now, don't ask me why I'm putting the parasol over the bot that's on duty. Like, I get that it doesn't make sense, but you know, we need to protect him from the shade. We need to protect him from the sun even. You know, he's working. He doesn't want to get too hot, even if he is a robot, you know? We have to care for our AI overlords before they come for us. If we say please and thank you, maybe they'll save us in the revolution. And then I think that's about it, other than some small little bits apart from foliage. So I'm going to pop a trash can in just to fit the vibe next to this pillar. I think that's really the only one that we need for this space. So I'm going to leave that. And then I'm also going to bring in a couple of lampposts. Now I do want to try and be careful of where I place these, or at least mindful of where I place them. Maybe one there, perhaps one on the corner over here by Eve's house. Maybe one, I think that is blocking it. I think we could fit one. yeah, that dig spot is blocking this one. So I'm going to put that in there temporarily. And I'm going to go ahead and actually dig that up right now so we can place it down. And I missed. Although having Max around, he should be taking care of that for me. But let me fix those spots up. And we should be able to just get that in right next to that bench, which means the tree has to move ever so slightly for me to be able to fit that in. Perfect. So we've got 1, 2, 3. I don't think we need any more unless we do one. Okay, we can do one over by here. So we've got the nice rustic looking lampposts as well, and they fit. Apart from this one, that is blocking the path, which I've just realized. Maybe... I don't want that right in the middle of the path either. So this one is going to cause me... This one's going to cause me a headache. Unless I move these stone pieces to there. I just have it slightly behind, unless the parasol is complaining. The parasol is complaining. Who knew that placing a lamppost would be so difficult? Okay, that works. We got there in the end. And then we can still leave some space for foliage. I think that's about it in terms of the items I had down. I do have some of these blue zircon tiles, which honestly don't really serve any major purpose other than the fact that I think they look quite nice and they kind of match the blue that I was going for. So I'm actually just going to drop just a couple of those in and around. Now, the other thing I did want to do is I do want to actually tweak some of this pathing just a little bit to make it feel a little bit more random, as I said earlier. So I'm just going to take a couple of chunks out of it in random places, and then I'm going to try and see if changing the side shape does anything for any of those. I don't think that it will. I think maybe on this one it tweaks it ever so slightly, but nothing major. And then I think maybe if we take a chunk out just around here, perhaps we can find... That doesn't look great. Because we've taken a chunk out this side as well. But actually I'm fine with having that side straight there, and then I'm fine with that. This bit we've already done. And then this little section, we can have maybe a chunk out by there. Change that. And I think that's about it. Unless I take out the piece there. But that doesn't feel quite right. So I'm going to leave that section in as the tended to section. Actually, let's make that diagonal. We'll take maybe a chunk out here. Place that there. Okay. That looks good. I'm happy with how that came together. And then maybe I'll even just move this grate forward just a little tiny bit. And then we'll just drop in some more foliage. So everything that we've already used, which keeps it nice and neat, nice and tied together. Just if you've got some big gaps or some big spaces, it's pretty easy to fill those in. Just like that. Maybe another one of these just here. Can get those blue trees in different sizes as well, of course. So if you go down to trees, we do have all the ever after trees down here. They do have different size footprints, but these mini trees are pretty handy because they've got a relatively small footprint. So you can just go ahead and drop those in as well. Maybe right there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to come out and save that just to make sure that it saves. And then you can just go in with some of the smaller pieces. These are all in underbrush, of course, as well. So the tangled ones, the ombre ones, and also the landings like heart plant. Those are always really good. And it's nice because they have a really small footprint, so you can kind of fit them pretty much wherever you want them. This will eat, I believe, into your item limit. So if you are kind of like getting a little bit up there with the item limit anyway, it might be worth not placing as many of these down, especially in areas that you don't see that much. I'm talking about like out the back around here. But for me, because I don't do too many builds, I just kind of like do builds in odd areas. I don't mind using up some of those item limit pieces for foliage and decorative elements. Just because I think it really ties everything together. And maybe I can pop one of those in just behind the bench. And I think, friends, that might be just about it. So the other thing that I was going to say was you can fill this space in as well if you'd like. It's just worth noting you can't run through some of these, so you could fill this entire space around, you know, the base of this emotions HQ as well inside this circle, but you can't actually run through some of them, so it's worth keeping that in mind if you do want to run through to the other side to reach that mining node. I personally don't need every single mining node, but I know that people do like to have access to them all if they don't have that many resources, so just something to bear in mind. But I think we're just about done with this, so I will give you a little walking tour. Right, so this is where we start. If we start in the docks, coming into the overlook, you can see the emotions HQ already through the trees and through the archway, which I absolutely love. I think it fits in really well. We come through those makeshift gates that we made with the bronze fencing, and then over on the right is that little bit of a shrine that we made to the Atlantean figures, to the Atlantean people, I suppose, with this new emotional rescue item that we have by here, which again, this name escapes me, but I do like this little area. They can come in, the villagers can come and sit, they can enjoy the water feature, the lighting, and it all just feels like it kind of fits and belongs. We've also got this little steward bot on duty just here, protected from the sun by that parasol, and just something nice and functional, this time bending table right next to Eve's ship. We've got Wally and R2-D2 and the little ancient robot looking very sad just over here, but that's because we were able to assign them to Zero's house, which we've placed and blended in pretty well, if I do say so myself. Then coming over here, we've got that entrance, or the exit, I should say, to another area, which I will develop at some point, which is going to be kind of like Wally's little farm area, because we can now place those in the DLCs. But coming back into the space, you can see Joy taking a seat on the bench. I do think R2-D2 might be a little bit stuck in there, but that's okay. I'm sure that he can figure a way out. And then I think all of the foliage just ties it all together. I love these big ancient ruins. I think even the grates look great, if you will. And then coming down here to the actual Emotions HQ, we've got those Atlantean figures in the background. We've got a nice little bench where you can sit down, and you can, of course, go through this circle of rocks into the building. And you can actually get around the back here because I didn't place too many. So you can walk straight past all of those foliage items to get to that mining node if you need it. And you can also use this space, as I said earlier in the video, to place down sticks and stuff like that to stop them from spawning. I believe that that works for flowers as well. So on the whole, I think this looks pretty cool. I think it fits well with the vibe. I think Eternity Hour was a perfect spot to place down this emotional headquarters, and I'm very happy with how this all turned out. Alright gang, that is it for this video. That is my attempt at making the Emotions HQ actually feel like it belongs somewhere. I do really love this glowy, futuristic, but also ancient aesthetic that we've managed to come up with. I want to know, have you decorated with it yet, or have you just kind of shoved it in a corner and ignored it for the time being? Whatever it is, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I certainly hope that you did. If you did, please consider giving this video a like, maybe subscribe to the channel for other decorating and Disney Dreamlight Valley content. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I do hope that you found some value in this video. I will, of course, catch you in the next one, and I will see you in the valley.